Hey everyone, welcome back to the Stationery Writer. It's been a little while. I just wanted to start off by saying that I guess I'm sorry that I haven't uploaded in a while, and I'm mostly here because I got a lot of encouragement on my Instagram poll to keep doing videos. Some things in life didn't really go the way I was expecting this year. Not in a scary, awful way necessarily, but things have just been different. And I just haven't really had a lot of time for recording, and there was a part of me that felt like, you know, it might be a waste of time or nobody cares, which I'm sure is a pretty common voice to deal with whenever you're doing anything creative. I know that happens in my writing too, so I kind of felt an urge to share the stuff I've been doing and, again, maybe get back into it, give it another go. And, again, everybody who gave me some, positive encouragement to do it, I appreciate it. So here we are. I have lots of stuff here to kind of talk about and look at. Basically, I am planning to go through what I've been using this year, what I've narrowed down to, kind of show a bunch of different layouts that I've been using. And then I'd like to also do a little summer desk setup. I usually kind of switch some things out seasonally a little bit, so we'll do that, and then probably talk a little bit about plans for this channel going forward. So anyway, here we go. So I recently made some changes to kind of my setup, which may come as no surprise to most people in this community because we change our setups a lot, but I'd kind of started the year with like really trying to convince myself to keep it simple and not overwhelm myself and not like flip-flop all the time. And spoiler, I kind of failed at that. I started off the year with like a bunch of different things, and we'll kind of get into those, but and ultimately in the last couple weeks I decided like this is just unreasonable to keep up with anymore, and I don't know if it's really of value to me, but also just kind of assessing what I'd like to be spending more time doing, or spending my limited time doing. So one of the things I think I'll just start, that I was trying to keep up with, is I was using the Hobonichi Weeks for just strictly health-related stuff. And I'm going to share the layouts because I think they might be useful to people. I couldn't find a lot of like inspiration for health journals out there because this stuff is kind of personal, so I guess just be warned that there might be, there's some health-related topics in there, and if you're gonna pause it and read it, then I guess that's fine, but ultimately I hope you don't necessarily read too in detail into it. Mostly I just want to share the functional like layout, again, in case it helps anybody else in these situations. But I've been struggling with a lot of health problems, and the original reason I thought a dedicated health journal would be helpful is that I thought it would really like have one place for all this information and like help me reach some of my goals, and just kind of be a resource. Like, and again, I'll just go ahead and start showing you things. Like, one of the main reasons I liked the Hobonichi Weeks is that it has the blank pages in the back. So I would take it to doctor's appointments, and I would take notes in the doctor's appointments, and then to have all my notes from an appointment to flip back to was useful. I think that was a really big benefit, and I liked that. I kind of also just experimented with some of my own like personal resources to have. But then, so basically what I was doing is I would use the weekly layouts, and none of this is really too personal. Basically I set it up using kind of my tenets of what I'm kind of like trying to do for my health, which is eating well, moving well, and sleeping well. And you know, I do intermittent fasting, so I would put my eating windows for the day and what I ate. I would log what kind of movement I did. And then I also kind of, and this is where I started to feel like it was too much, as I was just like tracking so much, but sleep quality, stress, all the supplements, and then I even was experimenting with like just things that keep me well, you know, like I really need alone time, I need to go get some fresh air, that kind of thing. And then I would do some kind of goal for the week and then a weekly review. So that's how I was using those pages. And then the monthly overview, and honestly, this is why I felt like I no longer needed a dedicated book, is because ultimately the core of my like health logging is in these monthly overviews, kind of the method I use. But I really like to keep track of my felt sense, how much energy I felt like I had that day, because that's been a big part of my health challenges is chronic fatigue and illness, you know, getting sick frequently, and other things. Anyway, you don't need to hear about all that, but tracking my energy is like a big part of why I was doing this and being able to see it over time and, you know, cyclically. So, and that's something I've kind of always maintained in my books, and I am maintaining, you know, as I move to something else. But, and then I would just basically note any symptoms that day, and I was trying to use like a dot color system for like what my symptoms were, but again, it's like at some point I was like, oh, I'm in pain every day, and my stomach, you know, I'm having problems with my stomach every day. So it's almost like redundant to keep making all these dots. So, and then the last thing I was doing was trying to keep track of like my average steps per day. You know, in light of it trying to be a goal to get more steps. So that's how I was using this. And again, I wanted to share because, you know, I think a lot of people are interested in trying to do health tracking, but maybe don't know where to start because, again, a lot of people aren't necessarily sharing this on Instagram and stuff like that because it can be so personal. But I do hope that helps somebody. And again, the reason I'm not abandoning health tracking, and I will share how I'm, you know, transitioning it, but I'm abandoning it in part because I'm at a better place. So I do believe that it served me well, but I don't feel like I need to track so much. You know, I think I've met some goals and I feel a little better, and I've made some real lasting lifestyle changes that are helping, and I just don't feel like I need to just track them so heavily. So anyway, that was what I was using. I've recently, you know, set it aside. Won't be using it anymore for now. The other thing I was doing is basically memory keeping is the term I see used. And I think that we did talk about whatever my last video was. I may have talked about it, but I liked the idea of having a notebook that kind of just has the broad overview of what I did for the year. And that's what I was doing with this book. So, and I really, really love, and this is the only part I'm sad about leaving this book, is I just love how the monthly calendars look in this book. Like the minimal layout, how much space you have to decorate around the edges is so nice. And so to just be able to flip through this and be kind of like, what are the main points or things that happen that I might want to look back on. And I've actually pulled some things out of this, so it's not even as cute as it used to be, but it is aesthetically very nice, so I will miss those. But I mean, the main thing I was using them for is kind of like, again, just a little bit of an overview, you know, what am I reading? What's, you know, what is, you know, what are some good things, bad things, you know, major things happening to me, that you can just flip through and kind of see. But I was finding that this layout, just where you just have this small amount of room for each day, it just really wasn't working for me. Also, it was just, more than anything, this was another thing to keep up with that I was getting behind on. And I realized that having a separate thing that I'm often rewriting things into, again, I mean, logically obvious, but also like, you know, it was an artifact I really wanted to create at the time. And it was just too much to keep up with. So, and you know, I had some things in the back, my book lists. I even was gonna do like, and I originally thought, I was like, oh, this will be like great to do little spreads. Well, I already ripped the photos out, but just some like seasonal spreads and stuff. But anyway, it didn't work for me. So, but if this is something that might appeal to you, that's kind of how I was using this. And it's just an MD diary, and it has enough. I had already labeled it would fit 52 weeks with this layout, if that's something you wanted to do. And with, you know, again, with some extra lined pages still, you get about 2, 4, 6, 8 extra line pages, 8 or 9, and then you get, you know, maybe 20 of the blank pages to do. So, you know, I definitely like sat on this for a while before I decided to part with it, but because it is a nice aesthetic, but ultimately not the thing I want to keep putting time into anymore. And then, you know, the other thing that I was more recently using, I even took, probably in February, I think, I took a little hiatus from like paper planning, because I was like, again, I'm like, is this really a good use of time kind of thing? And I probably went like a month without it, and then I was like, I miss it. I really do feel like just writing down the things you want to accomplish and having the flexibility of paper always is what pulls me back, because I'll wind up in some rabbit hole looking for an app that has things just the way I want them, and you'll never find that, if you're me anyway, and you're super specific. So, and it's just like, oh, I could just take my passport bullet journal back out and have everything I want. So, and that was what I was doing for a while. So, and I think I've shared this setup a little bit on my Instagram, but just very simple. Like I have the Sterling Ink monthly, which I wouldn't buy again, to be honest. I don't know. I don't really care for them, to be honest. It's very like flimsy. I don't prefer 52 GSM paper. I think it's too bleed through. It bleeds through too much most of the time. These layouts I never used for anything. I mean, this is too small. Like what, I don't know what you put here. You know, maybe an ink swatch or something, but it's not enough room to write hardly anything. So, you know, the monthly layouts were fine. I don't know if I have one. Compared to the actual Traveler's Company monthly insert, the boxes are really about the same size. I think her numbers are smaller than what Traveler's prints, so you may be getting that, like, you know, millimeter of extra space where the numbers would be, but otherwise the boxes are the same size, so you're not getting any more or less space there. But yeah, pretty standard monthly planning, to-dos, that kind of thing. And then, you know, I think the main reason I picked the Sterling Ink up over the Travelers is because it has more blank pages in the back that I thought I would use for like planning and projects and lists and stuff. So, and then the crux of the notebook really is like, and always has been, just my daily logs. So, and then I was also just drawing out my weekly spreads. I think I maybe experimented once with a vertical layout, but in this size, this is always what works best for me personally. And then, so I think the main thing to talk about ultimately with this approach is that for a while now, I've had this habit of doing like really, I mean, I guess it's bullet journal method, but even I don't know if bullet journal would tell you to write as much as I do, but I just have really, like, and ultimately what I came to was that my logs are just too like, it doesn't really need to be that way, and for a variety of reasons, but in which I'll kind of showcase when I show what I'm gonna do differently, but that's ultimately something that I wanted to change, is that I didn't think this approach was really useful for me anymore, or maybe, you know, it's it's something I don't need to spend time doing in this way. So that, and so I guess those three things are essentially what I am now distilling down into mostly this. So mostly what I'm shifting to now is I laughed to myself because at the beginning of the year, this is what I told myself I was gonna do, and then I didn't, and I wound up right back here. So anyway, I have a Hobonichi A6 original, and I'm basically consolidating the things that we talked about here into this book. I'm using a condensed form of my previous health tracking on these pages, very similar approach. The only thing that I'm also kind of doing differently is I'm using some blank pages in the back to just add a little more context for my health to have, and that's mostly just, you know, what supplements was I taking that month, still doing like a way to track movement, and my weight, summary, just kind of whatever I was dealing with that month, and so that's it for the health tracking. The next thing is I don't really use the monthlies to plan in advance. I use my phone calendar for that still, and that's because, you know, when I did the passport bullet journal, I was really trying to like quit using my phone for things, right? And just always have this on you. And I would never pull this out at, you know, in a doctor's appointment or something. I'd always pull my phone calendar out. So making peace with that is what I did. So I will always input, you know, appointments on my phone, and then I will sit down and plan at the beginning of the week, and I will write them in the dailies, which I'll show you. But so strictly, I reserve this for, again, I'm kind of distilling memory keeping into this book, and so I will make these a very, you know, cute thing to kind of just overview, look at what I was up to. So, and one of the reasons that I decided to go back to the A6, this Hobonichi, is I spent a lot of time looking at books from previous years of my life. And I found that, and things that I've tried over the years, I've tried, you know, bullet journal, you know, in an A5 Leuchtturm in the strictest sense. I've tried, you know, Hobonichi Cousin. I've done A6 in the past. I have plenty of passport and standard experiments I've done in the past. So I have a lot of stuff. And the books I enjoyed looking at the most was these A6s that I did. And they weren't even necessarily super aesthetic or anything like that. I wasn't like deep in it at the time. They were just, I would always have like just my to-dos, and I would usually write a couple things that I did or was feeling that day. And, you know, I realized that like just looking at that kind of simple overview, looking at what I was doing, you know, even the to-dos are actually interesting to look at. Like what was I doing then, you know? And in, you know, just such a simple format, not, you know, again, not overloaded like these pages, you know, really nice. And so that was one of the things that kind of pushed me back to this, is like, you know, you don't need to keep your to-dos separate from your thoughts and experiences necessarily, or at least that's how I kind of came to think of it, is that, you know, Hobonichi calls it a life book, and I think it is. I really like that, you know, thought process for it. So that's kind of the approach I'm taking. And I've actually gone through and backfilled just what was in here. I kind of roughly backfilled in here, and I don't know that I'll take time to decorate it any more than this, but at least the overviews and, you know, kind of things that I thought were worth putting in the memory keeper are here in some form. So I did backfill it, but ultimately the way I'm going to use it going forward is this is what I'm going to use for more of the planning aspect, for things that, you know, I guess future log and bullet journal is what you call it, but, you know, more for the things that you need to get done each month will be here in this monthly page. And then the way I'm using the daily pages is just, I love the little to-do at the top. I do the to-dos at the top. And then I'll put, you know, a condensed log of my day. Again, still logging, but not, you know, everything I did, you know, you know, every little thing. Just kind of like the general outline of the day. And then I will put the notes and thoughts that I have. So it is still a similar approach to what I was doing, but I used to say, like I used to always choose this because I was like, I want to be able to fill as many pages as I can. I don't want to be held back. But ultimately, I think, you know, I think the constraint of this page is better in terms of the life logging aspect. And so that's what I'm going for. And, you know, I'm only about a week into this, so, you know, I'm experimenting. Do I want to put the weather on every day? You know, like, I kind of am working on a little icon system. It's similar to what I've already used, but one thing I'm adding is, like, pointing to, you know, if there's something I log that I also have a long form journal entry on or a commonplace note on, I'd like to point to that. So that's kind of something that I'm adding in. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers the gist of it. I mean, there's some cute, you know, Hobonichi always has some cute pages in the back, but, and you do get blank too, so I mean, like, I can still have my, like, want to read list. I have the health overviews I was talking about. And then I'm actually using the, I do plan to fill in the favorites, and I do plan to fill in this little interview with myself. I think that's really cute. And then I'm using this for just books and media that I actually have read and watched and played. And then the only other notable thing is I really liked this. It said words to remember, but I decided to use it for kind of favorite inks from the year. So yeah, that's the gist of it. So the only other aspect to the system, and again, this is kind of like my core daily carry thing, is, and this is something that I really like, and it's something I used to do in the past with field notes. I'm not going to use field notes again because the paper is not that good. But I love the little pocket in the back because the only thing that I was hiccuped on that I always did this with is I like to have a notebook on me all the time. If I go for a walk, I want to have one with me, right? You know, I'm not always just at a desk all day with a notebook open. I'm, like, you know, around and doing stuff. So, I'm still kind of sticking with the Passport notebook, for two reasons. And, you know, again, I mentioned the field notes, but instead of switching to field note size, I am still going to use Passport size. One, because I love it. It fits well. I have a lot of them to use up still. And the reason I carry these is just for, just, you know, again, I do creative writing, so random writing scraps, just sketching and doodling, whatever random things, you know, I'm observing or seeing out in the world. And honestly, I really enjoy looking back at these. And sometimes they really do have some creative sparks in them. So I do still want to have these. And I found a couple really good solutions because, as you'll see, this one already got folded up in my pocket. And the other reason about keeping Passport is that, you know, if I decided to, like, I don't know, go hiking or whatever, and I just wanted to have the pocket notebook, I always could just slip it in one of my covers for that, you know, outing, just to have that. but in general, on the daily, it'll kind of just be these two together. So approaches that I'm kind of figuring out and working out with this is actually, oh, I forgot to talk about this. I found these at Yoseka Stationery has them. They're called Hinoki notes, and they're basically passport size notebooks, and I really love the page layout because you could put the date or a category tag or whatever, and they come with these little plastic covers, so I think it'll be much more durable when I'm, you know, tossing it in my pocket and stuff, so it won't get crinkled up and fall apart, kind of like this one was already starting to do. And these, you'll notice that, you know, a standard little passport can fit in the plastic covers that come with these Hinoki notes, which is why I ordered a clear and this designed one. But I really like the actual notebooks that come with them, so I'm planning to use this as it is once I finish this. It is a little thicker. I think it's about 120 pages, which I wasn't sure was going to fit. But it actually works perfectly fine. So, you know, I'm completely okay with that. I think that works great. I think the cover looks really great with this cover. The water green. Super cute. And then, yeah, you can just buy the refills to put in the cover. The cover has a little pocket, and they actually even come with a little pencil board, which is really cute. Probably not something I'm going to use ultimately, but I think it's a nice touch. So they're really cool little notebooks, and again, you get this is just the refill notebook that you get. And then you can just buy the refills to put in the plastic covers, but again, I did try out, this is like a Robiki Yamamoto paper. It fits pretty okay, even with the rounded corners, it fits pretty okay inside the cover. You know, I'm using Good Impressions, but I assume Travelers would fit as well. This fits well in there. So I think these are good options for that, and these are just cool in general. So yeah. One last thing about this to cover is I'm actually using a pencil board as kind of like a dashboard. So I'll put kind of my weekly to-dos and goals, and you know, I think you could do a lot of things, but you know, I just use it as my bookmarker, and it's kind of like a weekly dashboard. So okay, so that's that. And again, really, all of these things are now condensed into this, so what a relief for me. Less things. So really the only like accompanying thing that goes with it as far as like my journaling and life stuff is that I am still using a standard traveler's notebook. I really couldn't say goodbye to that. I just love it. And I use it for all of my like long form journaling, memory keeping, pages, you know, that kind of stuff. I won't flip through all of it, but and I've always loved the way these pages look. I just couldn't really say goodbye to it. So I use one insert for my personal journaling, and then I have a creative writing insert that I use still for short stories and whatever I'm working on. So yeah, that's my, like, you know, my personal system, and that's what I'm using. So the other thing that, you know, I've always been doing, but kind of changed my approach on, is commonplacing, and that's really the main thing to talk about next. I really like to, you know, I read a lot. I like to take notes on books that I read, articles I read, podcasts I listen to, quotes that I find, all that stuff. I really enjoy that practice. You know, I hyper-focus on random things to learn, and I think that's a practice I want to do more of and make more time for, and that's kind of why I've tried to distill all this down. Previously, I've been doing it in a standard traveler's notebook insert, but I had a big revelation with myself that I felt like these knowledge pieces should be kind of atomic, and I can organize them, you know, as I see fit at a later point. And so I have moved to a ring system for that, which I've previously denounced rings, but I think this is the use case for me that it makes sense. And for a couple reasons. One thing I would run into is that, you know, I would have notes in progress, but I would also want to start notes on something new, but I didn't know how many pages to leave, and I didn't want to thread them, you know, try and thread them together in different places. So like this really lets you have a few things in progress, you know, and you can add more sheets in between. So, you know, and again, having them as units that you could decide to organize later is just, it makes a lot of sense to me. So that's when I started doing this, and that kind of made some of my other things come into question, and that's kind of how we wound up here. But I think this is something that I'm going to stick with in the long term, as far as collecting knowledge and, you know, self-learning stuff. And basically the way I think about it and do it is I'm using an A5 plotter. This is the Shiranami blue leather. I use this for things that I'm, you know, actively working on, reading, learning about, taking notes on, you know, whatever. And I've set it up basically where I may refine this later, but the gist of it is in progress notes are in one spot. And as you can see, I have like a couple different books and podcasts that I'm currently working through and taking notes on. And then I'll have just a section of whatever notes that, you know, I want to have on me for now, to refer to, you know, I mean, like, you know, the parenting book, I'm kind of actively looking at some of this stuff to, you know, parent my child. Eventually this information might be out of date, and then I will archive it, which is what this book is for. And then I have projects, so, you know, I will keep short story notes and stuff like that in their own project thing. And I mean, that's pretty much the gist. And then, so yeah, and then I will, when they're not in use, I would archive them, which would be, again, this is currently my system for archiving. And, you know, I've brought the sense of organization over from my previous commonplace books. And I could see it something that gets more specific in the future as pages accumulate. But right now I have book notes, media notes, and this would be movies, games, podcasts, you know, television, anything like that. And then commonplace is just, you know, those quotes and copied text kind of thing. And then anything that I'm just researching or hyper focusing on learning about would be under research, and then projects are, you know, another tab. And again, ultimately I could see this expanding into multiple binders where there's a books binder, a media binder, a research binder, if I ever get that far. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers, I think that covers most of, you know, I'd like to do a separate video on commonplacing. And, you know, let me know in the comments if that's something you're interested in. I've talked about doing it in the past. The reason I've never done it is because I really want to talk about the history of commonplacing a little bit. And that requires a little more planning and thought, but if that's something you're interested in, let me know. If not, from a history perspective, I can definitely do a separate video just on, you know, my method, why I use the margins, what I think this practice really offers me, that kind of stuff. So I think that's kind of a separate video and something I'd like to do, but let me know what you think. Okay, so what's left? I think we caught up on all the system changes. I will share, since it's right here, I was talking about the dashboard in my planner, and I've kind of ordered some stuff. It actually just showed up today. I think there's a lot of possibility out there for sticky notes. There's a lot of sticky notes out there, and there's a lot of fun approaches I think you can take to the dashboard concept. But I really like these. This is one I'm currently using one of these already, but I ordered some more of the designs. This one is like a to-do list, but they're like a little bookmark too, and you just tuck them in. I think they're really cute. And you could do this in a variety of ways, I think. Yeah, I'm interested to experiment with some of these because I'd like to probably do like my movement goals for the week on a sticky note. I think that'd be interesting. And all of these are from Yoseka. They have them. I think this one's cool. It has a thing so it can stand up. But yeah, I think this is like a really fun thing that I'm excited about. And I'll probably share these on Instagram some as that kind of evolves. But yeah, okay. So yeah, let's take out some summer stuff. I kind of keep these. I will keep boxes with you know, stationery that is just so obviously seasonal. You're not going to use it any other time of year. I'll box them up and tuck them away, and it's kind of fun to take them out and, you know, fill up the classic box with them, and they look cute. Something to look forward to. Always a super fan of the ShoLittleHappiness stickers. They're just, her art style is so lovely. I know she actually has a summer release coming out with book themed stuff, so you better believe I'm excited for that. These super cute Black Milk Project stamps. And this is kind of from that same series. Little cuties. We've got hydrangeas, and these are they're called Bondi, but they are actually individual, like, washi stickers that peel off the roll, if you're not familiar. Yeah, so you get a little single hydrangea bush. Super cute. And then I will say, this is something I'm really loving right now. I guess this is the new trend, but BGM is making these clear tapes. And they just look super cute. I think you saw earlier I had it stuck in my notebook, but there's a swimming pool one. And it just makes you want to go swimming. It looks so good. And then I have these. They're from Of Six with Love is her account name. But she made, there's basically one for each season. The light bulbs have a little seasonal plant in them. They're super cute. So I love those. And then try to put those in the box. Okay. So there we go. All ready for summer. So I guess, you know, that's kind of wrapping things up for this video. I feel like I've talked a lot. At this point, I mostly, you know, I'd like to hear thoughts from, you know, you all on what you'd like to see in my videos going forward. Do you want to see journal with me? Should I do commonplace with me videos? Do you want more like product unboxing demo things? I feel like there's a lot of that out there, and I don't really feel like that's what I want to spend my time doing. You know, I would even be interested in doing more like book and writing related content. You know, if there's interest in that. Yeah, I'd really like to hear just from everyone what they'd like to see. You know, what have I done previously that you found valuable or interesting? And how to incorporate that moving forward. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.